Hello everyone, I'm Marion. Welcome back to Marion's World and another week on the Stitch Journal and the lovely crewel work. And I am going to be finishing off this flower, doing another acorn and starting on the bottom of the little hillocks. So I hope you enjoy stitching along with me and I'll catch you up at the end. Well, I'm hooped up and ready to go. I've got my pile of crewel wools here. And I have got this vintage Penelope beautiful emerald green in my needle, and I'm going to fill in, well, at least one of the little hillocks, I think, and I'm going to do it with some fly stitch. Now, a lot of this type of, I would say, Jacobean style of crewel work is quite often all about making filling patterns. It's all about using different stitches together to make a different effect. And so I'm going to use the fly stitch here in quite a regular way to make little tufts of grass. So I'm just going to keep hooking them down. I'm making a little space between each one. I'm making each one about, oh crikey, maybe about, well, less than 1 centimetre wide and about the same in length. I'm just going to carry on along the whole top of this little island here, this little grassy hummock. And that's what I'm going to try and make. I'm going to try and make this look like a little piece of grass. And once I get along here, I'll come back and put another row in. And so I'm going to start the next row here, and I'm going to, just to say, intersperse them with the previous row. So there's one coming down. I think I want it to be in here. I'm going to put it in between those ones. I'm still about the same length of stitch. So the fly stitch is just working its way back along. Come down into the middle of the V, into your loop, pull through and hook the loop down. I'm not putting much of a stalk on. And then I'll put a third row on. Okay. I think I also would like this outline to be in this colour green. So I'm going to stem stitch this outline. And I'll just carry on stitching for the moment. I'm taking stitches of about maybe about 4 mils, and just coming back to the previous stitch every time. I hold my loop out of the way with my thumb and hop forward by that 4 mil, or just less than 1/4 of an inch, right back to the previous stitch and pull through. I'm going to get a nice little line going all the way around my little hillock. Now I've got quite a sharp change there, so I'm just going to put my needle down and come up just a couple of threads to the bottom and then start a new line of stem stitch, because it's not going to go successfully round a sharp corner. And I'm just pushing up on the underneath of my hoop to give it enough slack that I can do the whole stitch from the top. Except of course now it's sort of more of a right-handed way round. So I'm going to go to this green here, and then maybe the very light green. So I'll try this one first. I'm going to come back with another set of fly stitch, and this time I'm going to do it on the outside of these green ones, and I'm just going to make them go further apart still come up right at the bottom and just hook that down inside the outline. So I'm just spreading this into a wider fly stitch. And so I'm building up the coverage of the piece of fabric, but I'm still just doing regular stitches in a regular pattern. Now then, I'm just going to, because that's right on the edge of here, I'm actually going to take a straight stitch in there and come up and do a straight stitch there. So the pattern carries on, but I haven't actually done a full fly stitch. I've just carried the pattern onwards. And so then I am up to the next row. So widen the fly stitch out, back to the middle. And I'll come back with this final colour, which will be this Vintage Penelope. And I'm just going to do a series of straight stitches up the middle to finish the little, well, I'm thinking of them as little tufts of grass. I'm just going to work along and work back. The ones on the top row can't be any higher than the little grassy bank edge, but I think I was going through a knot there. But once you get down onto the bottom rows, I'm actually going to make it stand up a little bit higher. I'm going to come right the way up the middle. Just work my way right back along. Go up and down now. And take it right back down into that first fly stitch bottom. And through just two simple stitches, a fly stitch and a straight stitch. I'm filling in this little patch with really nice texture. So I come to these bottom ones, just going to put a little green stitch in anyway, because again it's as if the pattern is carrying onwards. Where we can't see, as if you'd cut out a piece of fabric and you have the pattern just running on. These fill stitches are sort of tread like that. So I'll just put the little straight stitch in there, where the pattern that we haven't got is obviously carrying onwards. I'll finish that off, and I'll just finish off my little bit of stem stitch there. Because I still had green in my needle, I've just gone and satin stitched one of the leaves. Hello, Misty. Come on, Misty, do you want to be out? Oh no, here you go. There you go. I'll leave the door open. Back to the embroidery. So I've got this vintage, sort of a cream colour. There's a yellow, you can see what sort of a colour it is, like a creamy beige. And because it's the very, very old fine one, I've actually put 2 strands in my needle for this next part, because I thought the one strand would be just a little bit fine to be showing. And I'm going to do this acorn here. I'm going to start from the top for a change, and I'm going to start in the middle of my space. Quite often it's nice to start in the middle and work each side outwards. Just pull that through. And I'm actually going to lay in some bullion knots, and I'm going to make them lie all in this direction. And so it's nice to do these filling stitches because you get to do the same stitch over and over again, and it actually can help you get even because you're practicing the same stitch over and over. So I've taken my point right from the point of the acorn right back up to where my thread is starting from. I'm going to push the eye almost right through, and I'm going to start and wrap. Whichever way you wrap, it'll be fine. Obviously I'll probably wrap the opposite way round to you, but it doesn't matter. And I'm putting my finger there, it pulls up the point of the needle, but also as I wrap it secures those stitches rather than just letting them, you know, unravel. So I put my finger there, and as I pull the wraps on, I just pull them past my finger, and I'm aiming to get the length of wraps to equal the length of my stitch. So I think maybe put too many on there, so I think that's it. When you've got the length of wraps that you feel is right, you need to hold on to them and just ease your needle through. And keep holding them, don't let go. Just ease your needle through. I know you can't see what I'm doing, but I can't let go. And then as your thread starts to get used up, you can let go then. And I'm holding it right up, and I'm keeping the tension on the wraps. And as I pull, I angle my thread back to where the needle was, and I keep on pulling, and I keep on easing, and I keep on pushing these stitches in, and I just sort of even them out with my fingers. And when I feel that they're all lying nicely and evenly, I can put my needle back down there at the point, and then I've done a bullion knot. And it's not too big. If you find that you're doing them, you've got too many wraps on, you'd either pull it in a bit tighter, or you'd have to take it out and do your stitch again. So I'm coming up alongside it because I'm going to lay another knot right in here, and I might angle the other ones round a bit, but at the minute I just want to do another straight one. So I'm going to go down. So I'm not quite as low as that point because I'm following my outline. I'm going to come right back up at where my thread's coming out. Right there. Push my eye right up, and then I'm starting with my wraps again. My fingers underneath. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Looks about right to me. So I'll hold on, I'll pull my needle through, and you definitely don't want to be pulling your wraps tight, or else you're not going to get the eye of your needle. And I know I've heard of people using milliner's needles to do them, but I've just got my crewel needle in. You don't want to be pulling them so tight that you can't get the eye of the crewel needle through. But there it is, laid in again. I can put my needle down, secure the stitch. I can do a bit of, you know, making it lie nice. Back up for the next stitch. So as they get a bit shorter, I suppose I know that I've had 12 wraps on there. Maybe I can aim for a few less this time. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What do I think? I think I'm still going to do the same 12. Hold on, pull through. As soon as you've taken up the slack, that's when you keep your tension, but pull over and ease your thread through. There it is, looking lovely. Put my needle down to secure it. Now I'm just going to angle this one over a bit. I want to try and get the curve if I can. So I've come out the same distance at the top, taking it a little bit further in at the bottom, because I don't want any very short ones on the outside edge. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'll do with 10 this time because I am getting a shorter row. Hold on, pull through, and then don't think I can do it with my other hand for you, I'm afraid. There we go. It's there though. Secure the stitch. Actually, that could be the last one. In fact, I think it is. I thought I was going to get another one on there, but I don't think I am. So I'm going to come back over to this side and I'm going to work the other side outwards. Pull my needle through, ease the knot over, ease it over, and needle goes back where it came from. You just need to keep holding on and you just keep easing it. If you let go, you sort of will, you'll sort of have to run the chance of ruining the way that your wraps are lying. Here I am for my last one, right up to the edge, and I'll just angle it in a little bit. I think I only did 10 on this bit. 7, 8, 9, 10, looks about right. Hold on. You can see I go from holding like that to twisting over as I lie the stitch down. And that looks just beautiful. Down I go, and I filled in the little acorn nut, which I think looks super nice. I'm actually going to take this sort of a mauvey brown for the cap, and I'm going to do padded satin stitch, and I'm going to pad it without the use of felt like I did on the previous page. I'm actually going to lay some stitches across in the opposite direction to the one I eventually want. So I'm going inside the outline, and I want my stitches eventually to lie this way. So I'm going at right angles to it, and I'm going to just loosely embroider some satin stitch. You can do it quite, you know, just like a proper satin stitch all close together, but sometimes that's just not necessary. The main thing is just to get a layer on so that you're padding it up, and not to go right onto your outline because you need room for your top stitches. So that's my base layer put in. I'm going to come up in the middle, and this is my final layer. Now you can actually pad, if you wanted something really rounded, you could pad that way, then pad diagonal, and then finish off, and then have 3 layers of thread. But I think 2 is going to be sufficient for me today. So I'll come down over the top. I'm going to lay my framework in, just do them a little bit far apart, just so I get them all lying in the proper direction that I want them to be. And the reason I would like them to be padded up a bit is because this is quite high. The bullion stitch is has quite a depth to the knot, so I don't want the cap to look too flat. So I've got my framework in. I'm going to come back through and lay extra stitches, and when I get to the middle I'll work the other way. I'm coming up a thread's worth apart from my previous stitch, and I've got my framework to help me with the direction that I'm lying the stitch in. I can just fill them in. I could also do trellis stitch on top of this if I wanted, and that would add another layer. I haven't thought whether I'll do that yet. I'll just carry on laying these in. I'll do my framework that way now. Now that bullion stitch there has gone quite wide, and my cap's actually here where my drawing is, but I definitely want the cap to be wider than the nut, so I'm just going to put an extra stitch on here, and so I know that my little cap is going to be wider than the nut underneath it. I think that'll probably do it, and I'll come back again to the middle. and that looks lovely. I might put a trellis on there actually, or I could actually do this, as I've got thread left. I'm actually just going to put a little running stitch in here, going along, and then I'll come back again. I don't want to do a back stitch particularly, but I'm going to do a double running stitch and just make that little transition just a little bit nicer. So here I come back along, just filling in the gaps. And even though it's in the same colour, the yarn will catch the light in a different way, and so it will be noticeable. It's just going to get to the end of my thread there. One more. I think I'll just do that there. And a snip. That's lovely. I love those bullion knots. They look really nice. I thought I'd just do the two leaves here, and I've got some Penelope pale green in my needle, and I'm going to first of all lay some satin stitch in. So on a leaf like this type of a shape, you definitely don't normally would come straight down, because if you did, that would leave you with small stitches at either side. So instead, we usually put things in on a diagonal. You just find out where your thread is going to be the best place to go down the edge. And if I come from the middle there and I just pull my thread along, you can see when I get to there, I've got quite a nice run. And so I can put my needle here and then put my framework in and just lie each stitch parallel to the one before. And then I'll work right the way back up to the top, filling in with the straight stitches. And that's the first part of these leaves. I will be over stitching them again, but I'll put the satin stitch in first. So just moving up the outside edge and going back up to fill in the spaces with the straight stitches. And I find Crewel will look so beautiful on a satin stitch. It really does. It has such a lovely texture. I'm trying to come up on the outside of my drawn line. If you've done your designing with a disappearing pen, it won't matter. But for me, I'm coming on the outside of my pencil. And quite often you'll see me go and brush the threads when I've done the stitch. And I think that's all about just sort of do that, and then I push them. And it's just about getting them settled in. I only noticed I did that when I was watching last week's back. About doing this, I think, and I was going, oh, you always got your finger in there, Marion, brushing it. And I think it's about settling the threads and just making sure they're lying just as I would like them to be. So there's that one filled in nicely, and I'm going to do this one in the same colour. And so now I have got this quite a lovely petrol sort of a blue of Appleton's wool. And I'm going to overstitch these leaves with some fly stitch. And I'm just going to try and keep it even across the stitch. Come up in the middle and realise that I am making the veins on the leaf. I can go make a bit of a stalk, which is coming down the central vein, back up to the outside edge, across to this edge, back up on the middle where the stalk of the previous stitch stopped, up through my loop, and then quite a long stalk, and then a last stitch up on the edge, down at the other edge and up in the middle, and then pulling through to make your final stitch right down to the end. And I'll finish that one in exactly the same way, I think. The last thing today will be finishing this flower, and I'm going to start off by filling in another row of chain stitches around with this darker shade of purple. So I did the outside edge last week, and then I did another row on the inside, but I definitely want to carry on with the chain stitch. So this is Appleton wool and just normal chain stitch going round, trying to keep the stitches nice and even and the same length as the ones that I did last week. And it'll fill this whole petal in, and you won't see any white cloth. Sometimes you want it, sometimes you don't, and I decided at the minute that I didn't. But if you like it just as it is, there's nothing stopping you just carrying on. I'm going to put my needle down there because I want to start and get another chain stitch row started here. And again, I'm just pushing up on the bottom, so I've got enough slack on my fabric and my hoop that I can do the stitches from the top. You can do that yourself obviously, but for me it's specifically because I'm filming it. Sometimes my hand going up and down bothers the camera, or the focus of the camera I should say. I'll put that down there, and then I think I'm going to get one layer of chain stitch up the middle. Might be a bit of white showing, I will decide when I've done it whether I like that or not. We'll see. Take my needle to the back. If you do have a hoop stand, which doesn't have to be a great big stand like I've got, I mean lovely if you have one. It took me years before I had this nice hoop stand, but I've had a chair stand for many years, or a chair hoop I should say, which is where the piece goes under your thigh and you can sit on a dining chair or an easy chair and have your hoop held at the exact right angle for you, and it frees up both of your hands, and you will find that your other hand actually can do a big help for you. And so you can work with one hand underneath and one hand on the top, but also if I'm working with my hand underneath, this, my right hand, which obviously is my non-dominant hand, it does things like holding the tension of the thread, or spreading out the thread for the needle to come through. So it is quite nice if you have access to that, or you would like to get one because you're doing a lot of embroidery. You'll find it definitely a help to have your hoop held for you without having to hold it in just one hand. Now, I remember how lovely it was when I first got my chair hoop. So here I'm going upwards. It's not an easy angle for my left hand to do, so I'm working with my left hand underneath, but this hand is holding that loop there, and then as I go down again, it's already holding the thread off to the side, spreads the loop, and it's there for me to come up into. So you find that you just work in a slightly different way. In the end, it's whatever makes it comfortable for you to stitch. That's the main thing. I think I'm going to work with these two Appleton yarns, and I'll lay the dark one in first, And what I'm going to do is I want to make sure that these petals definitely look like they're in front of the ones that have gone before. I'm going to make a French knot edge. I'm doing 3 wraps. I'm going to come right up onto that. Oh, I've picked up some fabric there. I'm going to do my French knots in a tight line right across this top edge. 1, 2, 3, down with my needle, down with the knot, and pull the knot through, pull the thread through. So I'm nestling this line right up against the petal I've just finished. I don't want any gaps if I can help it. Like doing the acorn caps last week, just look on it as a good practice for getting French knots nice and even. And I put a big line. In fact, I'm going to put a double or triple line in. Keep twiddling your needle if you find that your thread is going in knots. It's just you get a way of, as soon as you pick your needle up, you're twisting the thread in some way, and if you're twisting opposite to the thread's natural twist, you'll either twist your thread up or you'll untwist your thread. So if you just sort of get into the hang of every time you pull your needle up, you give it a little untwist, it actually does help. And another row going all the way back, and then onto that 1, 2, and then nestle this row in exactly the same way. They're just going to be a couple of threads apart from each other. This is the last part that I'm going to do, and I'm going to fill in these 2 petals here. I'm going to start with a big long stitch in this raspberry, right along from one side of the petal to the other, and then I'm going to lay in this big long stitches, but I'm not going to be making them too close together because I'm actually going to be doing a bit of needle weaving, and I'm going to use the green and the raspberry together, and they're going to make a lovely checkerboard pattern. So the first thing is just to lay in either side, either the verticals or the horizontals. I'm choosing to do the horizontals first. So I don't want these particularly tight together, but I don't want them to be big spaces either, just sort of nicely laid in. I think I saw K3N, Catherine, doing some needle weaving either last week or the week before on her channel. So if you're following Catherine, so you might have already tried to do some needle weaving, and so you'll be old hat at it. So there's my first petal shape. I'll come straight over to this one, straight down the middle. Helps to keep everything else going straight. So you can change to a needle with a blunt point, or you can do as I'm going to do, which is use the eye of the needle to do the weaving. I'm actually going to start at the middle and work both sides. So if I come up on my perimeter, I just need to pick up every other thread that I've laid down. And it's quite often easy to go in sort of on a diagonal, and you just wiggle your needle and you can get right over to the other side. Now pull my thread. I'll just make sure they're all nice. I don't want to, I've just gone through a French knot, I'll come back. I don't want to pull anything, I just want them to lie nicely, and I'll go down with my needle just underneath the French knots. Come back to the beginning, and this time if I've gone under, I'll go over. So I went under the first one, so I'm going to pick up and it's just weaving like you would expect, under and over, making sure that you're picking up the ones that you went over the last time. There we go, and pull through. Now I'm going to want these quite nicely puddled up together, but I'll just wait till I get a few on. Back to the beginning because it's just easier for me at the minute. I can use the heel of my needle to settle them in. And as you start and weave a few more threads going vertically up, you'll see that you'll start and get a lovely little checkerboard design. And really the only stitches that are going underneath now are just from one row to the next. Everything else is on top. And you just anchor straight down when you come to the other side. So I'll come back along to here and I'll do the other side. I'm just going to move that first row up to the others now that I've got a nice little weaving pattern going. And back to under, over, like that. And as long as you keep your rows of thread going even, they don't have to be super tight together. In fact, they need to allow the room for the threads to be going under and over each other. I'm going under this one. And it becomes, the more rows you do, the easier it sort of gets to see where you need to go. And just take your time with it, and all of a sudden you'll just have a lovely little pattern coming out, which is, it's nice to see it come in front of your eyes. There we go. Get another couple of rows in, I think. I'm running out of horizontal threads here, so I think one more little row and then that leaf will be done. Sorry, it's not a leaf, it's a petal. That petal will be done. Got a middle stitch to pick up there, and that's it. And it looks really nice. Little checky finish, and I can do the same across here. I'll start at the end considering my needle's there already. The needle weaving's finished, and you can just sort of use the eye of your needle to settle the threads in and make it look bonny. But I think the little checkiness is really nice, and it's a nice way of doing it with the two colours. And my final little flourish is just going to be two little stamens coming out of here, and I'm going to do them in a bit of double running stitch. So I want them to be fine. I don't really want to do stem stitch. So I'm going to do a little curving line there and back up again. And do another little running stitch line. Just free form, you don't have to think about it too much. Just do a little curving line going out and then back. And I'm going to put two little French knots on in blue. Am I? I am. Blue. and I think I'll make a 3 wrap French knot. And another 3 wrap French knot to finish. And I think that's where I'll leave it this week. I'll take it out of the hoop so that you can see the whole thing. And so that's how I'm leaving it today, with the bullion knot acorn, the fly stitch on top of the satin stitch for the leaves, the little fly stitch hillock that's just started, those bits going in, and the finish of the flower, so chain stitch, needle weaving and French knots edge and the little stamens coming out. I'm sitting out here in the lovely weather that's unexpectedly arrived in the UK, and so I haven't had much opportunity to be crafting outside this year, and so I'm taking the opportunity this afternoon, and I'm just working on a little crochet thing that might actually make it to Sunday's video, because I've been clearing my stash of yarn and I've got little projects to use a lot of it up, and this is going to be the first thing. But in the meantime, I'll just get it. I'm hoping that you really enjoyed seeing that little flower come to fruition, especially the bit of needle weaving there. It's really lovely, and the whole page is coming together really nicely. So I think possibly there's another 2 weeks on this one, because there's a lot of work involved doing. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching and for giving a lot of love and support for the fusion crochet. It's really been doing really well, and I'm so pleased everybody's been enjoying it. It's not a very difficult thing to do, and it uses up scraps and pieces of fabric, and altogether it doesn't take a very long time. It's just my one just ended up in a bag in a drawer for years, until I just decided to finish it off the other week. So thank you for that, and thank you for visiting me at Marion's World, and for all your support, your messages, your Ko-fi support, everything. And I'm just going to leave it there and say, please press the like button and subscribe if you haven't done already, if you want to see what's coming up, because there's just more projects than I've ever got time for. But in the meantime, thanks very much, and I will see you next time you come and visit me at Marion's World. Thanks a lot everyone, and bye for now.